Do you sometimes wonder about what's going on in this world? Like why things just go down some crazy rabbit hole because it makes somebody a lot of money. And yet at the same time, you're like, do they even care about people? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we are talking about the ethics of capitalism, if there is actually any in it whatsoever. This is
Probably
the
not.
Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy? I thought I was going to introduce there for a minute. I was trying to think of something, and then you started, so it's
Okay. Well,
gone.
what were you going to say? Anything
I don't
better?
know. No,
Yeah.
it's pretty good. Yeah, this is a good topic, I think, because it is interesting how much. Did you ever read? There's a short story called by Ursula Le Guin. I don't know if you're a sci-fi writer.
I've heard of the name, but I don't know
She's really
history.
big. She was like
Uh,
wrote a lot of books specifically a while ago. Really good. But she wrote this one called it's an excerpt, but it's called Those Who Walk Away from Omelas. And it's like this like fantastical place where it's like perfect, but one child gets basically all the suffering and everybody else is
mm,
happy. And it's interesting because it's a really good metaphor for we have all these conveniences in our world, but they all depend on stuff that we don't see happening, like child labor in the Ivory
oh
Coast
yeah,
for chocolate, right? Or you know, really poor
dude.
wages and horrible working conditions for people in factories and stuff. But like
Or
here, we don't see
factory
it.
farming, where we literally have a holocaust for animals going on right now, just
Yeah.
because out of sight, out
Or
of mind.
yeah, or like what we were talking about earlier, like basically poison's being put in food because it's cheaper and because it makes people
Hmm.
addicted to it, right? Like these things that happen to sort of facilitate that kind of lifestyle and those pleasures and stuff that we have and making things so easy to get and we don't see it or think about it. And I think that it's interesting because like capitalism, dude, that's it to a T. Like there's so much, ethics is totally like an afterthought or something you use to market rather
Yeah.
than like actually something people care about.
Yeah, I mean, the more you think about it and the more you look at it, it seems like it's something that people just don't care about in business. Like, how could they possibly do this stuff if they actually cared about anybody? And it's like, it reminds me of that saying where people are like, it's not personal, it's business. But it's
Yeah,
like,
but it is
whenever you say
personal.
that, it 100% is personal because there's people involved in it. And I think that's where people get kind of,
What do you,
at least the beginning of where they get drawn away from just this ethical obligation to like interact with other humans and have an influence on other people.
it's also interesting too, because if you look at historically how the apparent ethics of like CEOs and stuff has shifted, it's shifted so much. Like back during World War II, there was like a big like paying taxes, companies paying taxes was like a big deal. Like they were excited about it and happy about it. Like I remember you could read a report, it was like I think it was GE, they were like proud of the amount of taxes they paid in like the late 40s because that was a sign you were like patriotic or whatever and cared about the country and
Well,
all that stuff.
also paying dividends to shareholders. That was something companies did because they wanted to make sure the people who supported them were getting paid back. Also, companies wanting to pay their employees the most possible to actually maintain their employees,
Yeah.
where we've gone the complete opposite way. We're like,
Yeah.
how little can we pay them to until they'll quit?
And it's crazy. It is. It's insane. And like all these things happen and you don't really think about it. And it's like, and the other thing too is that, with our regulations or lack thereof, like corporations are treated like people, but they're not people. And so it's like nobody gets in trouble either when something horrible happens. So there is
No,
no
they get bailed out.
repercussions. Yeah. And they get extra money, they get bonuses and stuff and they walk away with $80 million. It's like, so
Well,
there's no
that's the,
consequences.
I know that's the part that really does, it makes people act immorally or unethically because of the corporate structure. They're not held personally responsible.
For
Like
anything.
that's the idea behind the corporations is everybody is just blocked from all responsibility so they can do whatever they want. Worst case scenario, the business goes bankrupt.
Yeah.
But like, everybody who did the immoral things. Whereas, yeah, I
Dude,
mean,
it's like
it just
companies.
reminds. Mhm.
Okay, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it like reminds I don't know too much about it because I didn't really pay too much attention in history class, but it reminds me of those presidents that had like the New Deal and the Square Deal and the Trust Busters and all of that, how they had to like clean up all this corruption. And it's like it makes me think that we're getting to a point where we have to do that because there's just
Yeah.
like people can't live in America anymore. Like y-
No.
people have two, three jobs. They're barely making enough money to get by. Like even public service people in San Francisco are living on a street because they can't make enough money to live there. And it's just like, it's insane.
Which is insane, right? You have to live there to get the job, but you can't afford to live there with the job. That should be it. Those jobs were middle class jobs. They all were. Like all
Yeah.
those like federal jobs and stuff were all like middle class. Public service jobs used to be really good, and now they suck because they don't pay anything. It's
And yet we have
insane.
the world's first trillionaire, which is great. Congratulations. But what's he doing for other people in the world?
Oh, dude, he's
Not
making it
much,
worse for
probably.
everybody.
He's not paying
Probably.
taxes. He's not, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, it
It's a
makes you
mess.
wonder.
It does make you
Hmm.
wonder, and it is kind of a mess, and it's interesting because I think like, well, this is part of our problem, right? It's like nobody thinks of ethics because that gets in the way of making money and like stomaching
Right.
doing all that stuff. Well, it's like, and I don't want to bring this up, but like, when that kid shot the CEO for that healthcare or health insurance company, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, the guy makes decisions all the time that don't pay for health stuff that they're supposed to pay for because it's insurance and people die.
Hmm.
It's like, so you kind of, it's like the fact that people understood that says a lot.
Yeah.
Like the kid
Hmm.
shooting the guy, like, it's like,
Yeah.
and that's the ethics of it. There's none.
No, it's crazy because it's like you touched on earlier how like it's in the business's interest to make more money. Yeah, it's their fiduciary responsibility to make more money for the shareholders. But until what end? It makes you wonder, like, what's the purpose of all of this stuff? Because it can't be where the purpose of making of a business is just to make more money
Well,
at the expense of everything.
that got twisted too. There was like that was back I forget the guy's it was I forget his name now off the top of my head, but there was this one article this guy wrote, he was an economist, and he was the one that started that trend of like the only sole obligation of a business is to make money for its shareholders. Whereas
Mm.
like they're still part of the community, they still use government infrastructure, they still do all this stuff, they have employees that live in the community and all this. Like that's still considerations that should be taken into account because it's part of the business. But now it's all become reducible to making more money, and that doesn't work. That grow or die mentality is just wasteful and it just leads to ruin, basically.
Well, we're seeing the result of it coming up
Yeah,
soon. It's going to be die, where, we have all
literally.
these microplastics all over the world. We're essentially depleting the rainforest because if they don't have continuous forest, they won't get rain to the center of it. So basically, all the clear cutting they're doing to make more soy and corn for the cows are going to stop the water from moving inland, and then they're going to screw themselves
Yo,
out of
and
that.
the amount of
Yeah.
forest they level like daily is
Hmm.
nuts for cows.
Yeah.
It's I forget the number, but
Yeah.
it's like thousands of acres. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and plus like the amount of meat that people have been eating has just been increasing and increasing and increasing. And
That's the interesting.
coincidentally our health hasn't been getting better.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like, we have all these multinationals now too, so like it's easy for them to hide stuff and for you not to know about it because like I remember back it was like I think it was in the 90s when people were like, from an environmental standpoint, be like, look into like the distribution and stuff and where stuff's coming from your products, so be an informed consumer. Well, first of all, that's really hard. It takes so much work, dude, and half the time you can't even figure it out because it's so obscure. The way where stuff comes from, where it's being made, a lot of times it's hard to track, like, oh, these things were all made there, but it was assembled here, so it's like
Dude,
confusing as
and because
hell.
there's no overseeing body. Like
No.
nobody any nutritional type of thing, nobody looks at it. Like the FDA is supposed to be in charge of this stuff. They don't care. They don't look at it at all. You can put whatever you want, anything, you can label however you want,
Well, you get
and it
those third
really
party stamps, right? Like like
but they
green
mean
or
but they mean
whatever.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
they mean nothing. They can just put whatever they want on there, and it really absolutely means nothing. Like they did there was one study that or maybe multitude of studies where they took a look at all these like supplements that they have in there, all the nutraceuticals, and like 80% of them did not meet what was on the label.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy. So like you go into Walmart or whatever, they have aisles of vitamins. 80% of those are not what they say they are. And it's mind-blowing that like
Which means you have a one
yeah,
in
it's
five
cool just to do
chance.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool to do that. Like,
Because it's
whatever,
not
for
regulated
profit
though.
because let's make
Yeah.
more money because we can sell them sawdust instead of whatever we
You know
say
what's
is in there.
crazy? When I was listening to this one podcast they were talking about it was the start of the it was the start of the FDA and stuff. They were talking about, and before that, companies had gotten to a point where they were literally taking dirt and selling it as coffee beans and stuff because it
Right.
goes like anything to cheapen up because it became this like competition over price And so quality
Hmm.
product was just totally thrown out the window because they were basically just like literally like sawdust and stuff was getting thrown into all kinds of things to just add filler. Like it was really horrible. And
It was
people were
probably
like
around the
getting,
time of like
oh, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
probably around the time of like the Jungle by Upton Sinclair with like the meat packing industry and
Yes,
everything,
that's
where they were just
exactly.
doing
They
whatever
talked
the
about
hell they
that
wanted.
too. That book, when that
Yeah.
came out too, they were talking about that because like rats and stuff. It was horrible,
Yeah.
dude. It was
Oh, dude,
disgusting. Oh my
don't get
God,
me
so
started.
disgusting.
70% uh of meat in America has fecal contaminants on it.
Yeah, yeah,
70%.
that's
That's like
nasty.
everything has fecal contaminants
Yeah,
on it.
because it's
That's
just
crazy.
disgusting, dude. Because it's like horrible
Yeah.
processing and everything, and it's all just about doing it the cheapest way possible with no consideration for like, and the other scary thing too is like when these companies like knowingly create something and then create like a fund to pay what they expect the insurance payouts or like a lawsuit payouts are going to be. You see this with
Hmm.
pharmaceuticals all the time, where they'll put aside money to pay cases off because they
Because
know
it's
they're going to have
easier just to
some.
do that than
Yeah, then
actually
actually
correct
do it
it.
right. Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
insane.
And it also makes you wonder, like, what's going wrong in America? Because it's not every country that's like this. Like, you hear things
But
about
we
like
infect everyone.
Yeah, but you hear things about like England and a lot of places in Europe where they test all the meat has to pass like salmonella testing for chicken and E. coli testing for beef. And it's just like, yeah, it's more expensive, but it's also, hundreds of thousands of people aren't getting sick and or dying each year because of that.
Well, that's the scary thing because, like, with factory farming, like, I think all of our eggs come from two places. Literally, like, there's two gigantic farms. So, yes, you get a lot of different brands, but most of them are like coming from the
Hmm.
same place anyway. And that's why, like, when there was like salmonella scares and stuff with eggs, it's like all the eggs are affected. Like, everyone, it's insane. And yeah,
Yeah.
it creates these dangerous situations where if you have like some really bad contaminant on something, by the time people find out, it's way too late and it's out
Hmm.
there. And like, yeah, I think it's kind of crazy. But we
Yeah.
don't seem to
So,
care about I think this is the other thing I think that's hard with this country, though, is that we are the melting pot and we don't have there's no sort of agreement on anything. We have no like unity in this country at all. So I think it's really easy to otherize other people, to think of them as not like you and just screw it. Like I'm here to make money, that's what I'm
hmm.
doing, I'm gonna make the money, you know?
True. True. Yeah. And it kind of, I mean, because clearly they're never going to fix it. So it kind of comes down to
No shit.
it kind of comes down to having to do it yourself, like having to live by kind of like a high standard of ethics in order to hope that you rub off on somebody.
Which is really hard though too. Again, but this is, I was saying this is like, and I think that's the other thing. Like like social media stuff, we use ethics like in this way to make people feel like they're doing the right thing without actually doing
Hmm.
anything. Like my
Yeah, to
thoughts and
virtue signal.
prayers.
Like we use
Yeah.
ethics for virtue signaling.
Literally, that's all we use it for. Like, it's either to criticize other people and show how unethical and shitty they are, or to like pretend like we're doing something, but never about us getting better. And I was talking to one class about that. I was like, dude, that's what ethics was all about in the past. It was about the individual, you being a better person, and not about everybody else. And I think, we've
Hmm.
done a lot of these things in order to sort of convince people that this is okay, and that like, it's kind of
Yeah,
individuals.
because people kind of, for the most part, they do what other people around them are doing. And it used to be like back in the 50s and stuff like that, a lot of people were ethical. So a lot of other people would be ethical at the same time. But nowadays, people are like, whatever, I'll get away with it. Nobody's going to care if I don't pay my taxes. I'll get away with it. I can steal from the company. Nobody's going to
Yeah.
look. I'll get away with it. And so everybody's just doing that. And you're like, well, if everybody else is doing it, why the hell am I trying to be ethical?
Well, you can't get ahead, right? And so it's like this
Right.
like cycle that just keeps going. It's like out of control. Yeah, and I wonder where we're going to end up because it gets into a pretty bad situation as you guys keep steamrolling this forward. I think we're already
Yeah,
there.
definitely.
You have people making decisions that shouldn't be. You have, I mean, everything's that kind of out of control. We don't take care of
Uh-huh.
anything. That's the other
Nope.
crazy. You think about that. Country with the first trillionaire, no one should be starving in this country.
Seriously. Yeah, no
Seriously,
one should be
dude.
sleeping on the street.
No, I remember reading a report one time there. This is going back a little bit, so I'm sure the numbers have changed, but like they could solve hunger for like $26 billion in the US or some nonsense like that. They came up with a number and it's like, well, that would be hard to do. That money's there.
Right?
Tons of
Yeah.
it.
Or it's like they talk about how there's no housing in San Francisco, so that's why the cost of everything is so expensive. Well, how about
Build
some
affordable
type of
housing.
government stimulus where they build houses, they hire all the people who are living on the street, build houses, and then let them live in
It's like,
them?
but we
Like,
wouldn't make a bunch of money from it and we wouldn't 10x
yeah,
it.
right. But then the rest of the real estate prices will go down, and it's like, oh, because they're not ridiculous already.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of out of control, and that's the problem. But I think this is the issue, right? Because it's like people want things to be better, but then when it affects them, they don't want change. Right? The housing thing is a perfect example, right? Where it's like we could build cheaper housing. It's like, but then my housing prices will go down, and then I won't get as much for my house. It's like, yeah, but then you still have to spend that money anyway to get a house because they're
But
all
then you won't have to
overpriced.
step over people and feces in order to get to work. Yeah.
Dude, that's the craziest. It's like I saw a video that there's this venture capitalist firm in San Francisco. There's a picture of people literally stepping over homeless people to go inside for meetings.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Or
you
how
know,
about, dude, or how about the drug problems that we have with like these zombie
yeah,
people doing xylazine or whatever? They're walking around like freaking zombies. And it's
yeah.
like, you know, drugs is a serious problem, but it kind of got there because the medical field is not very ethical. Like they got
No,
everyone hooked on these narcotics, and then all of a sudden they're all doing everything else.
because they made billions of dollars doing it. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
the screwed up
Saying, oh,
part.
completely non-addictive.
No,
And we're like
yeah, dude,
every study they had, it's like super addictive, but they're like completely
dude, that
non-addictive
family was like,
narcotic.
prescribe them like Tic Tacs. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like they're great.
Yeah. Dude, so freaking nuts. Talk about no ethics, no morals. Crazy.
But I think that's the problem though, when everything's just about capital, you can't have
Hmm.
ethics. It doesn't exist. Because that's
Yeah.
all that matters is making money and nothing else matters, and that's where we are right now. It's kind of screwed up.
Hmm.
And we idolize
Yeah.
everybody that does that. So
Yeah, unfortunately, because
yeah.
we just see that one piece of their life. I
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of people idolize Elon Musk, but I read his biography and the end of the book, he's like, yeah, a lot of people really want to live my life, but if they knew what it was actually about, they probably wouldn't want it. He said
Because
something along those lines. And it's just like you hear that time and time again from all these people.
they're not
And it's
happy. They
just,
thought they would be. They think
yeah.
that's what they need. Like, clearly like he thought that's what he needed was to do all this stuff. Or he wouldn't have done it. But
Hmm.
like he's an addict, a work addict, and addicted to the fame and popularity of it. And like, you have to keep going to stay relevant with that. So it's like you can't
Hmm.
stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Keep grinding.
Keep
No days
grinding,
off.
Pennington. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
God.
Well,
We
anyways,
live such a
there you
horrible
ha
way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can't even spend that much money. It's just I mean
Oh,
it's
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 ridiculous.
absurd when you have that much money that you can't even spend. It's
Yeah.
just absurd.
The amount of
But
problems that could be
anyways,
solved. Yeah, whatever, right?
anyways. Anything else you want to say
No,
about
I think
ethics
that's it.
and
We know
capitalism?
it's terrible
Yeah, I know it doesn't
right
work.
now.
Not a yeah, it doesn't work. But anyways, that's all for this episode. If you enjoyed it, we have hundreds more episodes. We have shorts. We have all types of fun stuff on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.